And so then he tells me, I want you to have this car. And I'm like, what? At first I thought, well, I mean, I need a project like I need another hole in my ass, but I need this car. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, the no-kill shelter of broken cars. This is a very special episode. I am here with a 1992 Accord Wagon. This is not my car, but this is a good story that will hopefully lead to something really great. Before we get into just how broken this car is, and it is quite broken, I need to tell you the story of this car. So I want to tell you the story about this car, its owner, and how I came to work on it, and what this whole project is all about. Now, this car belongs to a guy named Craig. Craig is a lifelong friend of my dad. My dad just passed away 4 months ago. Craig is not only was lifelong friends with my dad, but he was also best friends with my uncle, my mom's brother, Doug. So he was really close to two people that are very important in my life and very, influential. Doug is, he's a lot like me in that he is constantly wrenching on vehicles. Now he works on old cars and old trucks. I work on import ship boxes mostly. But we have a lot in common, and we always have a lot to talk about. Now, Craig's relationship with my dad goes all the way back to I think the mid to late 70s. I believe my dad got busted for street racing his 76 Camaro. No, 67 Camaro. He had like a 67 Camaro. He got busted for street racing, lost his license, and Craig drove him around for a year, and they became, really, really good friends ever since. Now, when I met up with him at my dad's memorial service, we started talking just about everything about my dad and about and ever since I've been finding pictures of him with my dad when they were young, making him copies, sending them out to him, and things like that. This guy was a fixture in my life for a long time, in and out, and he is just to paint the picture here. Craig is about, I don't know, 6'6", huge guy, giant beard, rides motorcycles. He used to be involved with a lot of the local motorcycle clubs. So, and he still knows a lot of people in that circle. So, say Craig is, if you don't know him, kind of a scary guy. But I've known him my whole life. So anyway, after my dad's memorial service, I think a few days later, he rolls up to my house on his Harley. It's like a 78 Harley, and he says, "Hey, can you take off for a minute? Follow me?" And I'm like, "Sure. Let me get on my electric motorcycle and follow you on your Harley. This should be interesting." So I'm riding along, silent behind his Harley with the big monkey bars, and we roll actually just a few blocks away up to this house. And let me tell you, this house was a motorcycle house. There were motorcycles all over the yard. Bottles of oil and coolant, just kind of chilling various points in the yard. It was rough. And it was kind of a scary place to be if you didn't know this guy. And there was another guy getting on his Harley, and he's looking at my electric motorcycle, going, "What is this?" He's amused, interested, but it's all good because Craig is the kind of guy that if you follow him somewhere, if he takes you somewhere and tells other people there you're cool, you're not going to have any problems. I knew this about him. I've known him my whole life. So there was a lot of trust in an otherwise place that I would have otherwise been pretty nervous. And then to add to that, he says, follow me around the side of the house. Oh, good, where no one can see us. So I'm walking around to the side of this house, and I turn the corner, and there is my grandmother's 1976 Camaro Rally Sport. Not a car just like it, the car. I remember the license plate number from when I was about 5 years old. This car was a special edition, I think bicentennial edition of the car. Rare paint scheme. Now it's been sitting for decades, so it's kind of trashed. But you know, it came in a rare paint scheme. It comes with factory side pipes, though this car was currently missing those. This is a very special car. Not just because of the rare trim, but because of who it belonged to. And, you know, my grandma died 2 years ago. So, you know, my grandma, my dad, it just became such a sentimental connection to see this, such a special moment. And so then he tells me, I want you to have this car. And I'm like, what? At first I thought, well, I mean, I need a project like I need another hole in my ass, but I need this car. And so after that, I told him, yes, I want this car. Let's make this happen. And so he has a few things to get out of the way. And one of these things is he wants to get this Accord on the road. And while I was kind of planning that, the ball joint snapped on his truck. So these were his only 2 usable rides, and they're breaking down on him. So his truck snapped a ball joint on the side of the road. So that's when I went down there and I fixed it for him. It's a 2000 Tundra. Those ball joints are super easy. So I was able to knock that out in an hour. Really, really cool. And so after that, there's like a sense of urgency to all this. So I said, let's get your car on the road. And then when your car is on the road, we'll fix your truck. And then you'll have 2 sorted cars. And once that's done, let's go get the Camaro. Now, we don't even have like a handshake deal on it, but I pitched the idea to him, and he did respond to the idea. He did like the idea. So we are looking at possibly an upgrade and trade kind of deal. And I even offered to pay for the expenses to fix this car and to fix his truck. I can handle that. And between the parts and the labor, that's going to add up to several $1,000s worth of work. So it's definitely worth a Camaro that's been sitting for decades. So I really want to earn this. I don't want him to just give it to me. I don't even want to, and I really don't want to pay him for it. I want to earn it by helping someone out. So that's what this car is about. That's what this car means to me. And also, it's just a special car to begin with. It's an Accord Wagon. You don't see too many of those. This is a really cool opportunity. So if it weren't for the spiders, that was a fly. If it weren't for the spiders, this car would be kind of really great to work on. So I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to help someone out, and I'm really hoping it leads to a really cool project. So what we have is a very cool 92 Accord Wagon. You don't see very many of these. You see some damage, looks like from like a hailstorm on the top. But other than that, the paint can be saved. There's a very little rust along these rails up here. But if you get that like now, if you address that soon, that won't be a problem. There's no rust anywhere else. The rust on the top developed because the car was sitting. Underneath, I didn't see any rust on like the rocker panels or anything like that, but we'll get a much more clear picture once we get under the car. In the back, I love these things. I love these Accord Wagons. I think this is such a cool car. It is pretty clean in here. We have a nice blue interior. I like the blue interior because I have one in my Prelude, and it looks like it has almost all of the bits and pieces that the car came with from the factory. This car could clean up to be a very nice example. You see, it's messy, but that's not that much of a concern. The battery is unhooked, so it is nothing's going to come on. The car doesn't start. We have localized it to the fuel pump. There is no fuel pressure. I've tried everything else that I can try. You may notice that there's the Prindle here and a 5-speed here. Now, the story I was told was that this car at one point was stolen in Sacramento, and the people that stole it swapped in this 5-speed, and they put a suspension on it. So we're going to get a look at the suspension very soon, and hopefully we'll get a really good story out of this. We also have a updated stereo. I believe there's a 5-6 disc changer in the back. I don't know if I'll be able to get that working, but we can certainly take a look. Speaking of the clutch, there's not enough clutch pressure, so we do need to fix this. I'm hoping that this is just a bleeding of the system or something. I really hope I don't need to replace the master and slave cylinder because I didn't order them. So here we have the typical Honda 500,000 pound hood and an F22 A1 engine. This motor is basically bulletproof. There's not a whole lot that could go wrong with it. I will be checking the timing belt. I'll check the serpentine belts. I'm going to check all the fluid levels and all of that stuff. Check the air filter. I really like that this is mostly stock. I know they swapped in the transmission, but it's like that's all they did. They didn't do anything really insane with this. Let's get this car off the ground, and so we can get under it and see what we're up against. Okay, this is day 2 of working on the Accord Wagon, and I didn't make nearly as much progress as I wanted to, and that's for 2 reasons. First reason being, this car was completely infested with spiders. I wouldn't be surprised if when I drop this fuel tank, I find spiders in the fuel tank. It was really bad. And on the right rear suspension, you can see some remnants of webs and stuff, and especially farther up in the car. It was bad. Really, really bad. So, in fact, when I took the wheel off to start looking at the fuel lines over here, up in this wheel well, there was a quite large black widow in the wheel well. So I screamed, I ran away, and it was actually pretty awful. I went and got, well, first I went and got bug spray, and I also got bug foggers. So at the end of the day, these past 2 days, I have been fogging the underside of this car. And just, you see one right there by the jack stand, just to try to kill anything that is living up in this car, because I have a bit of a phobia. It's an irrational fear of insects to the point where I actually can't look at butterflies without my blood boiling. Like, you know, pretty monarch butterflies. It gives me anxiety attacks. But I consider being afraid of black widows a rational fear. So I'm doing whatever I can to not get bit by a black widow, including not sitting on the floor. I am wearing gloves when I'm in here, and I don't put my hands anywhere that I can't see. So that's just going to be the running theme with this car, and it's going to slow me down. I am not making nearly as much progress as I wanted to on this car. The second reason I am a little bit delayed is, you see this, let's see if I can get the light position well enough. This bolt on the other side here, trying not to stick my hands where I can't see. The fuel line is a brass fitting, and you can just barely kind of see it if I get the light just right. Yeah, there is a brass fitting for that fuel line, and I don't want to strip it. I don't want to round it out with my regular wrench. So I ordered a 5-sided wrench from Snap-on. Actually, I ordered it from eBay. It's a Snap-on wrench in order to get that off without rounding it out. I've also sprayed it down with WD-40 to try to loosen it in the meantime. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm kind of waiting on that before I make any further progress. This morning, I am going to try to undo the main filler line, as well as the other line that's behind it. I believe that's like a vent or an evap vent or something like that. So I'm going to try to remove that. And if I get that disconnected, I may drain the tank. There is a bit of fuel in there and it's probably quite heavy. I don't think I'm going to reuse this fuel. I think it's gone bad, but I could figure out what to do with it later on. I've made some progress. I got the old tank removed. Thanks in large part to this Snap-on $80 wrench that I got for $35. So I probably could have done without this wrench, but because it was one of those brass banjo bolts and I couldn't get a full 6-sided on there, I really did not want to strip it, so I opted to get this. You know, there's a huge difference. Here, let me show you. I actually have a 14 from AutoZone in here. So you can see the difference between how thick the material is. Every time I've tried to use this, I've just seen the claw just bend in and out. So and in fact, I have stripped brake fittings and such with this here. So I am really happy I bought this. This is much more solid. And once I got it on the banjo fitting, all I had to do was kick it, and it came loose right away. So it turned hours of frustration and breaking things into a few seconds. After that, I was able to drop the straps, and you see I just kind of bent them forward. They're very flexible, so I didn't have to worry about undoing the front. I only undid the rear. And if you did not believe me when I said this car was completely infested with spiders, yeah, this should put an end to that doubt. This is the stuff nightmares are made of. So anyway, let's go take a look at the tank. So when I dropped the tank, I realized that there was still quite a bit of fuel in it, and it was smelling really bad. It smelled a lot like varnish, so I went ahead and dumped it. Unfortunately, my container over there, which is in direct sunlight, which it should never be, is full. So I need to get another container, fill that, and I can have it taken away. The tank itself, it doesn't look too bad in there, other than the fuel going bad. I removed the old pump, and let's go take a look at that. So the old pump, you can see there's quite a bit of buildup at the bottom of the sock here. It was like this when I pulled it out, so there was definitely something in the tank that it didn't like, I think. And I really don't care if the pump is working or not. It could just be clogged. I really don't care because I got a whole new pump. And with the amount of work that this entails, I'm not willing to risk putting that same pump back in and then having the pump go bad. So I just got a whole new thing, and we're just going to drop this in. Okay, the tank is back in, and all of the lines are connected. And so I first put 3 gallons of fuel in the tank and tried to start it, and nothing happened. So I went back inside. I had to cool off because it's hot as hell anyway. I thought I'd go drink some water and do some internet searching with my Googles. And I found a lot of forum posts talking about how this car supposedly has 17-gallon tank, but I can only fill it 14. And that just seemed to be kind of all of the information I could find regarding the fuel tank itself. So I kind of figured that maybe 3 gallons just isn't enough to catch the fuel pickup, especially with the car up on jack stands the way it is, tilted forward. The fuel pickup is in the back of the tank, so there probably just wasn't enough fuel to reach the pickup. So I went and got 3 more gallons, dumped it all over the floor, of course, and we are good to go. So let's start this up. So it starts. It sounds like shit, but it starts. And that's probably has a lot to do with the giant hole in the muffler. That's fine. We're going to take a look at some other things now that the car is running. So now that the car is running, we have to put this back together, get the car on the ground, move it out of my garage, and clean up some spiders. It is absolutely my favorite tool for servicing brakes and clutches, because this thing hooks up to an air compressor, and you turn the air compressor down to like 30 psi so it doesn't, blow out your entire system. It's also, I believe, modulated in the gun itself, but you connect the gun to, or you connect the end of the hose here down to the valve, which is right about there. And then you put this bottle up on top. You're supposed to stand it up. And the idea is that as you suck fluid out through the into this container, that bottle drains down into the reservoir. So now I have clean fluid in the system. And it also pulled all the air out of the system. So you just hold it. You just hold it while you're loosening and tightening the wrench itself down at the valve. And you can effectively bleed the system without even touching the pedal. Inside the car, I went ahead and pumped the pedal a few times. You still have to pump it a few times just to build the pressure up. But the clutch now has pressure. It works. We can drive this car now, which is exactly what I'm going to do next. The thing I noticed was that the spark plug O-rings had a bunch of RTV around them. And that's generally something that I've never done. From what I understand, that's one of the few places that you actually really shouldn't use RTV. And that's why these spark plugs were getting coated with oil. So I kept the old spark plugs, I kept the old spark plug wires, and the old gasket just in case. But we have this all back together, and it looks really good. And, it's using NGK products, which are basically made for Honda. So, yeah, we are good to go. I checked the coolant. The coolant is full. It's a little not quite as green as I would like it to be, but it looks just fine otherwise. It is a little bit low on oil. But I was able to put some in it, but it's not enough. He's going to have to top it off. Power steering fluid looks good. Brake fluid looks good. And obviously the clutch fluid looks good because we just did that. So let's start up the car. Oh, Christ, that hood is heavy. And see if we have a little bit more life. Now, here is my next problem I'm going to fix. The car's only supposed to beep when the key is in it. There's the key. So we're going to fix this next. But in the meantime, clutch has really good pressure now. We hear the fuel pump turn on. And the car is nice and lively. It sounds like crap. And the power steering has a definite whine. So now let's fix this because this is definitely a problem, and this is going to drain the battery. And also, I've had it have issues being able to take the key out. So this will only help. I've brought the car out to the wasteland for two reasons. One, I wanted to get my Prelude in the garage, and two, I wanted to get this car and all of its spiders out of the garage. The ignition cylinder ended up being more broken than I thought. Let's take a look, see. So here's the old ignition cylinder with the old key. And you see this shape here? That turns out to fit this quite perfectly. So this had to have been the tool that was used to start the car while it was stolen. And initially I thought it was just the lock cylinder itself, but when I took it apart from the locking mechanism, a piece fell out. A piece that should not have fallen out fell out. So I had to order a whole new lock assembly, and that's going to arrive today. Luckily, this is not hard at all to install. It'll take me about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes once it arrives. And this was not expensive either. This was like 18 bucks. So I didn't waste a whole lot of money by buying only this and then buying a whole assembly afterwards. And also, it kind of makes sense. Like, I can send this back if I really wanted to, and I might. But once the new cylinder arrives, all I have to do is plug it back into the switch mechanism and reinstall it in the dash here. There's plenty of tutorial videos out there. In fact, that's exactly how I knew how to remove this. I watched a couple of them. So you can learn how to do this yourself. It's not hard at all. It is frustrating, though, when you get it all together and you can't go to position 3, which was my problem. You have to take it all apart again. There is no alternative. And that's how I discovered that the locking mechanism was broken. So once this arrives later today, we'll get this all finished up and the car will be ready to send off. Well, I got bad news. The ignition cylinder that I had ordered from Amazon arrived today, and it was the wrong part. That is just the risk you take when you buy car parts from Amazon. Amazon is not very good at getting you the right part. I got an Accord ignition cylinder, but it was for a later model, and it was not this. This is what I need. This is not what I got. So unfortunately, I cannot send this car back to its owner yet. I ordered the new part. Well, I ordered a used part from Lithuania. I suppose I could go junkyard scouring on my own right now, but it is 105 degrees, and I wouldn't even do that for my own cars. So this car, well, I figure since it's been sitting for 5 years, another couple of weeks won't kill it. And we still accomplished what we set out to get done. The car starts, it runs, the fuel pump works, the new fuel pump is in, the car is back together. It was just this little kind of cherry on top that I was not able to do yet. I probably will not film putting in the new lock cylinder just because it's really not that exciting. There's other videos out there for this, and you know, it's just not a big enough job to do an entire feature on. The reason I wanted to take this video was because of the car, its owner, and its story. And it is an amazing story, and I am really glad I got to tell it. So that's going to be it for this video. If you like what you see, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you don't like what you see, I can't imagine why. There's nothing to not like about this car, except maybe you're an arachnophobic like me. If that's the case, leave a comment anyway. Tell me that you hate spiders. Thank you for watching, and hopefully there will be more to this story coming soon.